I love Tiki. I mean, it's not like I'm a historian, but I get why people dig it. The vibe that it puts out is kick back, relax, sunshine, water, strong drinks, music. I mean,
you had a bad day at work, you go to your tiki bar in your backyard and you take a vacation.
Shit's about to go down.
I'm feeling something in my spirit.
Chats and Tatts with Aaron Della Vedova.
Hello, friends and lovers of tattoos. Welcome back to Chats and Tatts with me, your host, Aaron Della Vedova. I don't know what, I think I'm going to call this particular episode part of our local legends series, I guess you would put it. Every so often, I like to have friends on the show that are actual legendary characters of San Diego. San Diego has changed so much since I've lived here. I've lived here roughly 25 years. Seemed like a sleepy town almost back then. And now we've got all these fancy restaurants and twisty but mustache bartenders and hip hotels and nightclubs. And I still love San Diego. I'm not dissing that. But there are some people who have been around long before any of that ever happened and have contributed a lot to the culture of San Diego, to the health of our communities, to the fishing industry, to the tiki culture, and a bunch of other things that we'll get into here in a moment. So with all that being said, please welcome my guests. You know one of them, by the way. One of them's already been on the show, and I love that man. And his good friend, Tommy Baumann, and of course, your favorite, Dave Warshaw.
All right.
Chats and Tatts with Aaron Della Vedova.
All right.
That was good.
That was a little beatbox. You notice that?
I like
What's
their
that called?
style. I do mine more like
All right. All right.
Chats and Tatts. Chats and Tatts with Aaron Della Vedova.
Chats and Tatts.
That was sick, bro. I was going to breakdance fight you.
I don't know if we get a room in here for your ass to be breakdance. You will actually be breaking things.
Yeah.
A real breakdance.
Yeah. Breakdance fight.
Oh, welcome to the show, Tommy. So how'd this come to be? I am great friends with Dave over here. We had him on the show recently, and after it was over, he's just ripping all his best buds and local friends, and he mentioned you and your family's history with the world famous Bali Hai restaurant, the home of the greatest fucking Mai Tai ever made, which I have had. And if you haven't had one and you do come to San Diego, I'm not kidding when I say this, go to Bali Hai and have dinner there as well, because it's a beautiful restaurant with probably the best view of San Diego of any restaurant, I think, in San Diego, in my opinion. But also, they are kind of legendary for their Mai Tais. I don't know how you guys have gotten away with making that way legally over all these years. I really don't. You must
Maybe
have
we're grandfathered in.
Yeah, something like that. I was wondering if you guys had some like power, some old connections with the police. I don't know. We don't have to get into that dark material. But one way or the other, you're getting it done over there, buddy. And everyone loves the place. I love the place. But I think maybe we could talk a little bit about, these things just don't pop up. A legendary restaurant like Bali Hai doesn't just show up. I mean, sure. I think people try to do that nowadays. They come in these big restaurant groups and they're big fucking financiers and they try to basically build places that look legendary. And they do a pretty good job. I've been to, you know this.
Like 70 years of history, right?
Next year will be 70 years. It's been
I didn't even know that. 70 years. 70 Holy
years.
Shit. So we're talking Bali Hai was
1954.
Woo. Huh.
Yeah.
Well,
we're going to the beginning. We're going to the beginning.
Let's start from the beginning. How does that? Yeah, let's go to the beginning.
We're talking about the beginning of the Polynesia, restaurants, right? 70 years ago. I mean,
yeah, late 40s, early 50s was kind of the initial boom, if you will,
of Polynesian, like people wanting to eat that kind of food in general, or bringing that style.
A lot of it's, and this is quoted from books and such, but a lot of it came from guys coming home from war. And they wanted to remember like the good parts of the South Pacific. The guys that were in that theater, I think it was pretty nasty, not that the European theater wasn't, but coming home from war, they wanted to remember the palm trees, the drinks, So there was a resurgence into that, or a boom into that. LA, San Francisco, bigger cities. A group of people from Newport Beach tried to opened Christensen's Hut in 1950, late 52, it opened. On Shelter Island. At the time, it was Christensen's Hut and the Kona Kai. That was it. That was the only thing there. My grandfather worked as a professional accountant in LA for an oil company. And the boss of the oil company had a side gig where they would go in and find failing businesses, car washes, laundromats. I mean, you name it. They did a couple restaurants in Orange County. His boss saw this place was up for auction. They came down, bought it. My grandfather came down here and fell in love. I mean, he was not a restaurateur. I mean, he was an accountant, you know.
But he fell in love with what? The city?
He fell in love with the building, the restaurant.
Right,
the
right.
city was a young, small city. I mean, so in 54, he comes down. It's in its second bankruptcy in 2 years.
And what was it prior? What kind of
It
restaurant?
was a Christensen's Hut. They opened it as a tiki bar.
So it
Christensen's
didn't
Hut.
have this.
Oh,
we
it
could go,
was
we could
the
go further
Christensen's
back.
Hut.
Yeah,
I see.
and
Yeah.
this is the goof,
Yep.
which when they that's kind of the
goof is the
mascot.
original mascot from Christensen's Hut.
that you guys adopted when you
Well, it was on the building. It wasn't going anywhere.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So we did,
Okay.
kind of adopt it as our
And
own.
just so you guys know, when they say the goof, they mean this crazy
the
character
goof on the roof.
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
mounted on the top of the restaurant.
It is.
This massive circular restaurant overlooking downtown San Diego.
Yeah.
So he comes in, starts looking at the books, figure out what's going on. Basically, in 52, 53, there just wasn't enough people in Point Loma yet. Everybody was ranchers, farmers from the valley, had beach houses. So on Friday night, they'd load the family up, drive out to the beach. They weren't coming halfway back Friday or Saturday for dinner. Like, it wasn't happening. It wasn't until the Portuguese showed up, the fishing, the Navy really started to show up, that then all of a sudden there were enough clients. So he comes into town, none of the purveyors will touch it because now they've watched two guys, now two guys owe him money. So he brings the purveyors in as partners.
Ah,
And they had shares in the business so he could get product to open.
right.
Eventually starts rolling it. The CEO from the oil company's like, okay, it's time to cash that thing out, move on. And he's like, I want to cash my shares out and keep this thing.
Mm-hmm. Wise man.
Which is crazy when you think about it. I mean, he went to UCLA, ran track at UCLA, was in a fraternity, went to war with those fraternity brothers. They all lived in a cul-de-sac in West LA, all those families, you know, and he was just like, nope, we're pulling anchor. We're going to San Diego. He worked down here for like 2 years before my grandma would move the family down just to make sure it wasn't, you know, that it
you're
was,
going to move me down there and then move me back.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that's actually going to work.
yeah, but definitely a visionary. I mean, ahead of his time. He could see the potential in the city,
Where it was going.
and yeah, he got in front of it. And in the late 60s, they started to build Harbor Island when they dredged the bay a second time to move the West Fleet here, the naval fleet. And he got to walk Shelter Island and pick the lease. And he picked the lease for Tom Ham's Lighthouse, our other restaurant. And there was
He
the Coast
became
Guard
like the
had-
mayor of that fucking.
the Coast Guard had marked out where they needed a navigational light for ships coming in and out of the port of San Diego. And it was on that spot. And he brokered a deal to have it actually be part of the building. So the lighthouse at the top of that building is a working lighthouse. There's no way they'd let you pull that off anymore. Like that's old school, you know, grease the wheels kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's cool is when you go into the actual lighthouse, they have all the maps of them dredging the bay and like the history. They can take you through it while you watch like the bay change. You know what I mean? To current.
cool. Right.
And they're huge maps, man. Have you been to the lighthouse?
I have once. Many
They got a
years ago.
lobster fucking corn dog at the place. A lobster corn dog. Have you had one?
No.
Okay.
I want one now,
Okay,
though.
yeah, you do. But yeah, and then it's just really neat the way that the lighthouse is all set up and the original glass is downstairs. It's cool, dude. It's historical.
It's been a while. Maybe that's after this. You mentioned getting dinner all together. Maybe we should have it there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good
that's a
lighthouse.
fancy joint right there.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
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 We had
Pull it
lobster corn dogs.
I mean, lobster corn dogs. We get like, what?
Obviously fancy.
I mean, are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious. I am stoked to announce that Sullen Clothing is now a sponsor of the show. I've known Ryan and Jeremy for 20 plus years. Amazing human beings, huge supporters of the tattoo community. If you're a tattoo artist and you want to do a t-shirt design with Sullen, you can send that over to design@sullenclothing.com, and they would love to see what you've got. Again, thank you, Sullen, for your support. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jeremy. And now back to the show. But, you know, I want to back you up a little bit
Okay.
because I'm learning as we're talking. And I told you when this started, I'm not, you know, you've been embedded in the tiki culture as an artist, Dave, your whole life. And I think you know a lot about this. I'm learning, you know, here as a tattoo artist, I never knew, you hit a button for me. Like, why is all these palm trees and little hula dancers? And I guess in my mind, I was thinking, well, a lot of these dudes were stationed in Hawaii and they probably wanted to remember that little moment they were in Hawaii and then maybe they got laid that weekend.
Sure, or a
and-
holdover, you know.
but
in
you're also
Hawaii
talking
or-
about being in the Southern Pacific Theater and
Totally.
because a lot of them were seeing the South Polynesian Tiki culture
Right.
from
Yes.
that vicinity.
Very much so.
So really, I didn't get that. So this is how that culture comes back to America.
I mean, it's definitely been credited that way. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see any other way. It
That
makes
these
perfect
guys-
sense.
And especially
These guys
back
coming
east, you know,
home-
where it's cold. They made little basement bars that like brought
Right,
them
where it's
back to
snowing
this
in
place.
Chicago,
Right.
and you're like, but you just
Chicago,
got back from
New York.
war.
I mean,
and-
they were everywhere. You know, they were.
so this was like a
Yeah.
big pop and trend as
Right.
these soldiers come back from World War II. They're looking for these tiki lounges, these tiki clubs. These,
Sure.
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and so your grandpa comes
And you're talking,
along.
and you're also in the height of what I don't know what you'd call it, like the Copacabana era, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
people are dining out, people are eating out, life is good in the United States, people have money, you know, they're dancing, and that all goes hand in hand. Yeah. So Grandpa, slides in there in the 50s and starts making some changes, and then they contract I believe they're primarily Samoan family to start running a floor show.
like the dancers, and, hula dancers.
So it was 5 nights a week, 2 shows a night, and they were cocktail shows, right? So your drinks were 50 cents more than they were in the bar upstairs, and you had to have 2 or 3 of them for the, you know what I mean?
right, cover.
Cover. And that went on, I mean, into the late 80s.
Sad that it doesn't go on anymore.
There
Tom.
were a couple, man, it was almost like the perfect storm. That Samoan family was kind of in its second, third generation of doing it. They were kind of starting to implode a little bit. But the real big hit was Mothers Against Drunk Driving put an end to cocktail shows.
I never knew that.
Third party liquor liability became a real thing, right? And so all of a sudden, if you were forcing people to drink 3 drinks in 2 hours, you know, they were linking liability to that. So they tried to run them as dinner shows for a while, and it just wasn't the same. You know, it wasn't the same feel. They were longer. So those kind of 2 things really is what put an end to that. People still ask for it. Next year at 70 years, we might do some fun stuff and bring it back for a while. I've seen a lot of floor shows since then, since I was a kid.
the location with the backdrop
Right.
and everything, right?
Yeah, and in the summertime they do the floor shows outside
Right.
on the patio. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I like that we brought that up, and then that's back on the agenda. I'm glad I could help
Yeah.
you with your business.
Yeah. And I was going to say something
good
too,
idea was
which this
stolen,
could be
right?
hearsay, but I remember this story. But I have a tiki at my house that's a Shelter Island famous tiki that was from like right around 54. And I actually got it from Tahiti Gill at Master,
Master's
yeah,
tattoo.
yeah, Master Tattoo. And the story I was told was there was a second floor show that was happening for a second in Shelter Island. It was called the Tahitian Terrace. But quote unquote, this could be legend, I don't know, but Tom Ham went and had a talking to Grandpa to these people and said, there's really only room for one Polynesian show on this island. And if those are not gone by tomorrow, those will be gone by tomorrow, kind of thing. And so I actually have a 8-foot tiki at my house, and I have pictures of the original Tahitian Terrace like floor show. But besides that, there's really not a lot of like information
Yeah.
about it.
I mean, unfortunately, we lost Grandpa very early. I never met him, you know, and a lot of that history went away, you know. I mean, a lot of it's hearsay. Some guys have done a really, really good job putting that history together in books and stuff, but there's definitely huge gaps in it, you know, as to who the movers and the shakers were, you know, that kind of stuff, you know.
I love tiki. I mean, it's not like I'm a historian, but I get why people dig it. It's the vibe that it puts
Yeah.
out is kick back, relax,
Yeah.
sunshine, water, strong drinks,
Yeah.
music. I
Art.
mean,
You had a
Art.
bad day at work, you go to your tiki bar in your backyard and you take a vacation. And
I mean,
you know.
I don't think Jimmy Buffett fills that cup for me the same way. It just doesn't. I know
Yeah.
I wouldn't even call that tiki culture. I'm making
That's
a joke.
parrot head culture.
I know it's making a joke, but that's the same vibe he's putting out. Is
Sure.
put on your Hawaiian shirt,
Yeah.
have a
Have a
margarita,
cheeseburger.
have a
Have a
cheeseburger.
cheeseburger.
Have a fucking
He basically
cheeseburger.
he was the modern era of that, right? He kind of twisted the tiki that
Well, I
thing
mean,
and made it his own version
yeah,
of it.
more of that. I think he was like a little more of that Florida Keys.
That's Florida.
Kind of
Yeah,
Hemingway.
West
you
Coast
know,
is different.
that.
The
It's-
tiki vibe here.
Well,
is
and there's
different.
tiki. There's good tiki vibes. I mean, Florida's got some history too. The Mai Tai. There's some classic tiki spots
Really.
that have been around in Florida a long time. But
And
yeah, it was.
because those islanders were from the Caribbean.
I don't know. I mean, I think it was the same thing. I think I mean,
They just brought it
in
back
the
from
initial
the war.
boom.
Right.
I mean, they're all over. I mean, the Midwest is. Yeah, they're used. I mean, you find matchbooks and stuff from these old tiki bars from all these little towns in Ohio, and
Yeah.
They were
Iowa,
everywhere.
and Illinois,
And they're super
you
cool
know.
looking. They look like they would be from the middle of nowhere. But now you're like, oh, that's like
It's almost cooler to find one in Chicago in
It is.
December.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
And there's some famous ones in Chicago, Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go to some more tiki bars. I think I'm getting inspired.
But this is like
of
not
it.
a tiki bar. So the best
I
part
know
of
it's not a
this-
tiki. We're getting off
when
track.
I go into this restaurant, the first thing you see is like, what? Are they redwood or what are the posts that are in there?
So the posts are knotty pine.
Okay,
And
they're
they're whole pine trunks, right? You've
that
seen
go
them.
through the damn building from up to bottom, like through. It's 2 stories tall
Well, it's
trees.
a massive building.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these
really
trees
is.
when
It's
you
a
walk
beautiful
in,
building.
It
yeah,
is.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
built proper. I don't know.
Yeah.
Somebody sunk some dough at the
I mean,
time.
just the like wood in that building is so insane to look at, and then all of the historical products that are in there, right? And the maps.
It's like a
and
museum.
It's a museum, and there's weapons and different things showing you this came from this, this came from this, this tiki looks like this because it came from here. There's a map showing you. You can learn if you want to,
Right.
And so it's different because tiki bars are a tiki bar. It's almost like over the top fucking everything you're looking at is so tiki and it's supposed to be like that. It's like
I
a
gotta pull this
fantasy.
tattoo out. Look at this.
It's a fantasy.
When I first moved to San Diego, I must have received tiki god energy.
Yeah.
The first tattoo. Oh shit, wrong leg. That's an ear of corn, right?
that was
This
a
is a
tiki
funny
bar.
story though. Look at this. So I moved to San Diego, and I'm
look at that
like,
thing.
I get
Yeah.
this tiki.
Yeah.
Randy Jansen did this one,
Yeah.
and it's funny. Up here, he gets done, and there's a fucking. Oh, here it is.
Oh, I have those straws in the bottom.
There's an olive in it. And I go, Randy, what's up with the olive? He's like, I don't know. I don't fucking drink.
Yeah.
And he's like, you want me to change it to like a cherry? I'm like, no, dude. Just leave the
That's even
olive.
better. Yeah, that's so much better.
Yeah. That's a martini. That's a martiki.
Martini.
But I'm being kind of serious. Like when I came to San Diego in the Coast Guard when I was young. I was actually stationed in Point Loma.
Okay.
They used to patrol that whole area once in a while. We mainly went down south near Cabo or up north doing fishery patrols back then. But I don't know how I picked up on that vibe. But I remember for me, San Diego that was my San Diego tattoo. I was like, I don't know, man. Look at this place. Look at the palm trees. I need a fucking tiki. I need a tiki cocktail on my leg, And that got to me through somebody, probably you or somebody. I don't know, but
Well,
that-
and what's weird is you did a tiki tattoo on me.
I know.
Which is so weird because he
Oh.
which was like the one tattoo I was gonna get from him. He's like, "What do you want?" I'm like, "Want a tiki tattoo?" And he's like, "The fuck is a tiki tattoo? Like, what do you mean?" I'm like, "Shrunken heads, whatever." He's like, "Okay."
That might have been how it went down. I might have done that on you, and then I think you were just preaching the gospel.
I just loved it
of-
because
of
I
tiki.
had like a modern tattoo. I had never had a tattoo that looked like this. You know what I mean? All my other tattoos they didn't look like this
Right.
kind of tattoo.
New school.
Yeah,
New
whatever it was
school.
called. It was his
Cool.
style, right?
Right.
So it's like, whoa, I have this like fucking hyper dynamic tiki tattoo, and I fucking,
with severed heads.
yeah,
Which is sort of shrunken heads.
yeah, yeah.
Shrunken heads.
And they're still
I
there.
think they're severed at one point.
Yeah,
First severed, then shrunken.
yeah.
Well, that's dope. And then on down the line, Grandpa unfortunately
So yeah,
passes.
Grandpa passes away. The stress of opening the lighthouse I think kind of got to him a little bit. It was another giant operation, and my mom takes over. And she'd kind of, she was definitely well trained by Grandpa, but it was a big deal. She was young. She was very young when she did it. And luckily, my grandfather had a ton of friends in town that were
helping out.
and in the right places,
And he had paved
giving
a
her
lot
the
of it.
guidance, to really make sure that made it, that the restaurant made it, that the business made it, and I think my mom and dad, and so funny story. So my dad comes in the picture, right? My dad's a bartender at Tom Ham's Lighthouse. The Navy brought him here. He went to Fort Rosecrans? No, where Liberty Station is. Well, NTC,
Oh, yeah,
Naval
NTC,
Training Center.
right.
He did his boot camp there. So he gets out of the Navy, comes to San Diego, gets a job at the Tom Ham's Lighthouse. My mom at this point is a single mother of 2, needs a date to opening day at the racetrack. So she's running the Bali Hai, and it's a bunch of her basically really close high school friends are helping her run the Bali Hai and Tom Ham's Lighthouse in managerial positions. And so they're going to opening day, and they're in like Robert Driver's box, driver insurance. And Susie needs a date. So they're like, well, there's that nice new bartender over at Tom Ham's, And yeah, somebody's like, oh, you think he'll do it? And I'm like, oh, well, we're not going to ask him. We're just going to tell him, and that's how he gets injected into this whole thing.
That's just to back up.
That's my dad.
Okay, this is pre-Tommy.
This is pre-Tommy.
Okay, so that's how they meet.
So that's how they meet.
So now your dad joins the.
He's sucked in. They're running it. Have me and my little brother. And
Mom is a
races.
philanthropist, just so we know.
Oh, both very much.
Yeah,
both are very.
They give back more than any. This family is incredible. That's why we're here
very
today.
faith oriented, and we they worked in the community. We grew up in the community. Our neighbors were our customers for the most part, and that's something that went back to Grandpa, like always giving back.
That's cool.
You can always do better with the community, having a business presence in your community. Little league team. I mean, everything, top to bottom.
And still do today.
Still do today. Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
I've heard that. Dave has mentioned that, and it's another reason I wanted to have you on, because you are a San Diego staple, but also one that, this is how it works, right? Great cities aren't built off of just a bunch of capitalists that come in and rape the land.
Right.
It's built off mom and pop shops that give a shit about where they live and where they build their businesses, and they find ways to support their local communities. And I have my own small story in that way, you know?
Right.
And I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but it's sad today, to some degree, to see small business being pushed down. I don't know. I don't want to say there's an evil dictator doing it. I think it's just the way of capitalism. And
I think there is an evil dictator, because I can tell you, I'm going to look at them right now. I'm selling shit at my small business. So if you're watching this, you better buy something, or you're the evil dictator who's talking about. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, it's just, yesterday I had a guest on who we got on this subject. He owns restaurants, and he made an interesting point where he was like, this is like a kind of a deeper, more philosophical point. And he was really serious. He was like, I have enough. I'm at the point. And he goes, and I'm not a baller. I'm a mid-level dude. Like, I have a modest home, but I have enough money for anything I need at this point. And I'll probably make a lot more in the future. And he goes, basically, from this point on, he's turning all his sites to community giving back and supporting. He's in Oakland, and Oakland's fucking on fire, basically.
Sure, yeah.
And he basically, his plea was really interesting. I never heard it said this way. He's like, here's the way, and he's read all these, he's a deep thinking, smart dude. He reads all these books by these political scientists and shit. And he's actually on some boards of recalling politicians up there. He's starting a community thing where they're going to march the streets and get rid of crime, like almost not vigilante, but he's involved at that level.
Yeah.
And he was saying, look, my assessment of the situation is this: if small business, local business doesn't, all of those people out there currently who have enough, and who you are. Now, if you just opened your little fucking sandwich shop last week, we don't need your money or your time yet. But if you've got 10 of those fucking sandwich shops, maybe it's time to turn your head out of your bank accounts and look at your community. Because if we, small business, don't start doing this, government is going to come in for us. Except when government comes in and helps people out in need, they attach restrictions on freedom. They just go, yeah, you can have your food stamps, but here's this and here's that. And you do not want that. And he got down the rabbit hole of Plato level books that were written on governments that reached this stage, how the Roman Empire fell. And we're at this particular stage in culture where that's where we're at. And to save it is a lot of things. But one of the biggest things he emphasized was successful mom and pop, small business, really making most of their remaining careers about how they can give back to their communities and support. So it's interesting. It's cool to hear that your family's been doing that this whole time. And I think it's an important message for everyone listening to kind of hear that.
Business side, like, it's not in a non-greedy manner, right? I mean, I want my customers to feel comfortable coming there. I want my customers to not worry about where they're going to park their car. I want stuff like that. But also, I want the city to be clean, because half my business are tourists. I want the city to be appealing to tourists,
Right.
And I mean, I think this is the darkest I've seen it, I mean, as far as, the pair of the city. And at some point, you just know there's so many headbutts and restrictions on the political level that it's easier to go to community business people to try to raise money to get stuff done in that regard, right?
Yeah, because the bureaucracy.
People come together. It doesn't matter who they vote for at that point. They want the same thing for San Diego, right? They want the same thing for their city.
And you mentioned the word greed, but it's not greed. It's called a win-win.
Well, sure, it's a win-win.
You do something for the community, it's going to be good for your business.
100%.
And that's how all
you reap what you
good,
sow, right?
Right, and that's how all good action should look.
Right.
If you're doing something nice, it's going to come back to you in one way or the other. If it isn't happening right then that day, give it a year, whatever. But I don't know. I'm on a tangent, but I just think that's important. And we're all
Definitely.
small business owners at
Right.
this table today.
Right.
Community mom and pop fucking business owners, I never thought about it till I just said it out loud. But
Yeah.
that's the three people that are sitting here right
Right.
Yeah.
I know you're really involved with your community. I mean,
I am, and I mean that. But you're right. It's like it is. My business is a really difficult business, but I will say, having my business has put me onto a platform that I never thought I would be a part of. I get to be part of this conversation because I have that. For real,
well,
I think
honestly, Dave, you'd be here without Warshaw provisions.
But I think that it's a platform that's put me into a situation to where I can have, like, I'm a business owner. I have conversations with business owners. You know what I'm saying? I have a great group of friends that all are incredible business owners too. So I get inspired by all these people and I learn. You know what I mean? Like,
Maybe, speaking of business, I'm going to switch it up here a little bit.
COVID.
Oh shit! I shouldn't have said that out loud. That's it. We're canceled.
uh-oh.
No, I'm kidding a little, but honestly,
That's still a thing.
They're
They
the-
still cancel you.
You got to be careful. The
Oh.
bots are listening. I mean, I don't think I said the single word, but if we go down a rabbit hole of criticism in any regard, it will be caught. And we do great on Spotify, and we're on a couple other platforms. I don't even know the names of them. It's YouTube that's the issue, and we have been shadowed now about 8 times. Hell, Grant Morgan, this fisherman, was on the show. So he's talking about, and this might be interesting to you actually. He's talking about, there's a Japanese name for it. It's a specific way to harvest a large tuna.
So they do it for all fish. On those big tuna, there's some other steps involved.
Well,
but
they put
do
the
it for
hose in the
rockfish.
vein, and they run the
They do
seawater
it,
through the
the
circular.
hardcore guys do it on rockfish. They do it on everything.
Right.
And yeah, the fish excretes like a protein enzyme or something in the death process. But if you do it this way, it's
Right.
like the meat's perfect. Right?
Which is
Like-
a perfectly normal conversation. What do I get?
and it's humane. It's a humane
It's
way
humane,
to kill the fish.
humane. Fish is already dead, by the way, when you
Yeah.
enter
When
the
you-
table.
yeah.
But the notice we got was animal cruelty. we were discussing animal cruelty on the show.
for fish that you're going to harvest to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, again,
We
this
could
isn't a
dive-
human.
we
This
could
isn't a
dive
human.
into this rabbit hole. if
This
you
isn't
want.
a human being though that made that decision. That's
No.
not a human.
No.
That is an AI bot
we can
that's
talk about
just
this, too.
identify certain words. Of course, we petitioned against it, and I think a few weeks later they released it or something. So because I'm like Dave, I get to the who is the dude smoking the cigar at the top of the
Yeah,
fucking tower?
right.
Let's go kill him.
Right.
Yeah.
But it isn't because it's the corporate model. There's no one evil guy in the corporate model. It's just it had that model. There could be some characters,
Evil
some nefarious
entities, maybe.
in there, but most of the people in that giant entity are just regular nice guys.
No, 100%.
They just go home. They go to work, and they're like, "Hey, we need to sell more iPhones today." And he goes to his people, and then one of the people might say, "Hey, why don't we, make the phones not work so good the ones people currently own?"
Right.
Maybe somebody says that.
Maybe somebody.
Maybe somebody needs to get the fucking shares up, or he's going to lose his job. And maybe he needs that job because his grandma's got cancer. And next thing you know, he's just like, "Okay, let's do it."
Well, the bots are fucking
Yeah,
crazy.
right?
Even the bots are crazy because we talk about this all the time where I'll be like, man, I can be online all day long selling my shit, talking about what I'm selling. I feel like the minute I say I'm selling something, it doesn't get seen by people because
The word "sell" is in there.
yeah, because I think the bots are like, we're not giving you free fucking advertising to
That's
make money
interesting.
on Instagram because why would we do that? This isn't a free market.
It used to be a free market,
Right. But
and then
now
they
if
saw
you
the
want to sell
potential.
something, you can boost your post.
you have to
Right.
pay for it.
So then I talked to my friend who does this shit, and he's like, dude, when you pay for that, you're literally getting bullshitted because the only people that are going to like your shit are bots. It's not the people that are going to be purchasing from you. It's 100,000 fucking bots that all go, bap, 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 bap. They don't care. They're not buying your product.
Interesting.
You just have 150,000 likes or shares. But that doesn't mean
But it helps
that,
you sell your product eventually.
well,
I mean,
if you pay enough, then you get into the algorithm.
Matrix, yeah.
I also heard this: when you start paying, you get they right away the algorithm basically rewards you.
Right.
It's
Right.
like this guy used to never pay. He's now paying money.
Right.
Let's get him hooked.
So let's get him hooked.
Yeah.
And then maybe you come in hard. You're like, I really want to boost my business. I'm gonna spend $2,000 a month for 6 months. So you do, and it works. The second you reduce your budget,
Yeah.
they punish you. There's
Right.
an algorithm that punishes
38
you.
people like your stuff.
Like you don't it's $2,000 a month. That's what you've been giving us. You don't fucking cut us back. You don't cut back. I don't know. We're definitely, this episode's definitely getting canceled.
But
we might as well let it fly.
No, you know what though? It's because we're talking about soul tiki shit. And that's what it comes back to is because
the bot thing is terrifying.
Love, prayer, community service.
Yeah, well, just like being soul, right? We're being soul. And yeah, I mean, like there is this is not the internet. This is not the internet. This is real shit. You know what I mean? This is real things that you get to experience.
Well, what you do for a living, what I do for a living, what you do for a living. We are very what's that called? Analog. We're analog form businesses. Yeah, do you have an Instagram account? Sure, we all do. But, I'm a tattoo artist. That's pretty simple. Service industry. You are too. Actually, you have a store that sells wares. And you have a restaurant, which makes people happy and feeds people and gets them some cocktails and lets them have a place to chill out and unwind once in a while. I love the service industry. Yeah. I like making people happy.
Right.
I kind of regret maybe not starting a small product company on the side because all my friends that are not done working all did that and I didn't.
Right. Yeah.
Make a widget.
But have something working while you're working.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. I was too busy fucking just tatting.
There's still tomorrow.
Yeah,
or today.
We'll talk after the show.
Yeah, there's still today.
The service side, it comes back to relationships, right? I mean, you're meeting people on the daily, interesting people. Every once in a while there's an asshole in there, but for the most part, the city's pretty cool, and there's people from all over, right?
Right.
And especially, people walking in your door that it's forming those relationships, and that's what makes the wheels turn. Like is forming those relationships, and then building long-term relationships with clients, customers.
And you must love. And the thing is, you wouldn't be there today if you didn't love people. You.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. We can get into that too. So I literally made every single adult life choice to get as far away from sitting in front of you talking about this as I possibly could.
You didn't want the business.
I didn't want any part of it. I worked there a little bit early on and was like, nope, mom and dad are in charge at home. They're in charge at work. Like, that's not going to fly.
Yeah, nobody wants
to
work
for them. And I dove into fishing and just kind of never looked back. Went to college to be a merchant marine, sailed around the world for 10 years, I mean, it was, and when my mom tried to get me back, like I fought it mentally, I was like, what am I doing, But yeah, at some point, like you just can't fight fate.
And you needed that other phase. If you had gone directly
I wouldn't be near what I am without that life experience.
You had to go around and do that first.
Sure, and manage other people and be in extreme situations. All that, yeah, for sure. That's why I am who I am. But yeah, and then... So we were remodeling Tom Ham's Lighthouse at the time. Bali Hai was 2 years off a fresh remodel, signed a 50-year lease, and my mom started needling me about staying home, And in those days, so I'd work 6 months a year. I'd work like 90 to 120-day rotations, and then I was off those 90 to 120 on the other side. And I was gone. I was hunting, fishing all over the world. I was, it was fun, but it wasn't conducive to a normal life. Every girlfriend I ever had cheated on me. Couldn't own a dog, Right. So it was time. I was thinking about settling down, and she got her hooks in me. So the dust settles, and we have a meeting. My older brother had come back to the company very early. My little brother had come back after him, after he decided he wasn't going to go to med school or something. So we just remodeled Tom Ham's Lighthouse, and they're like, well, so I was like, well, I'm new. Like, I'm the new guy. So you guys decide what you want to do. And they're like, well, we want to run Tom Ham's. And I'm sitting there looking at him in my head. I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? Like, they're going to just give me the Bali Hai right now? Like, that's how this is going to unfold? I got to jump on the wheel and just make it spin faster? Like, okay. Like, and to me, that was home. That's where we grew up. That's where we spent the majority of our time when we were kids. It was close. It was down the hill from where we lived. Like, we were there all the time, So once that happened, I was like, we're good. We're going. We're done. We're good.
And you've been the head honcho over there ever since. I mean, I know your mom's the overarching.
So I came in. I bartended in college a little bit and worked some country club stuff. I came in. I worked every job in the house for like 18 months. I started as a busboy. I came in. I worked every job 18 months. 18 months later, I started managing, and then shortly thereafter, my brother went. And they opened Tom Ham's, and I hired a manager, and we just went.
And that's been your routine ever since?
Ever since.
And that place is big. Like, how many people can you hold in there? It's a big-ass restaurant.
So it's the upstairs dining room. I can probably see almost 200 at a time, not including the bar and lounge. And then on the first floor, we have 2 private event spaces for weddings and stuff like that that are, 250 and 350.
But this is an old school restaurant. When you go down to the Belly of Beast, there is fucking floors of kitchen. The kitchen is
They
enormous.
don't build restaurants like that anymore, right? Because kitchen space isn't square footage that generates income.
They tighten them down
So
to
they're
the small.
huge
This
dining
kitchen
rooms
is
and these
fucking
little
huge.
closets, right?
Right.
Well, that wasn't the case back when there was land everywhere.
Right.
So both restaurants, because when he built the lighthouse, all he knew was the Bali Hai, so he mirrored it. They're giant. Chefs walk in the kitchens and they're like, "What?
probably
Wait,
stoked.
Are you kidding me?"
It's insane.
And inherently, it's 3 restaurants in one because you're catering for 2 huge spaces at the same time.
Right.
But they're giant spaces.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like how many people work
giant
in the
operations.
kitchen?
And I don't know about. So right now, I'm probably the heaviest I've ever been. I'm at like 121 employees right now.
It's a little bit of an
That's a big
operation. Yeah.
kitchen.
It's hard to call it mom and pop, even though it is.
Yeah.
But it's a large small business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to return to
Oh, the name we don't say.
what were you going to say?
COVID.
Oh God, no! I was going to go to something else, but
That's
you're
a
right.
Pee Wee Herman.
That was my original. I was honestly just going to ask you how things went for you. Small businesses, everyone went through. I think their own version of hell.
It sucked. Yeah, it was a very, very tough time. We were blessed in the fact that we had outdoor space at both locations that we could operate. Now, we weren't operating where the capacity we should have been in, but for the most part, we could keep our people working, which was the biggest deal. I mean, the second time they shut us down, like 2 weeks before Christmas, I laid off 105 people.
Oh.
Like 2 weeks before Christmas. I mean, like that's just. I don't have turnover. Like these people are family, like.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that was the hardest part about it.
At least they knew in their hearts your hands were tied.
Sure. And for the most part, you're talking, I mean, the front of the house people, they're all cash hounds, right? They're all tips. They're, that's how they live. And they can't live on that stipend. That's not what they're accustomed to. So they were, they're calling, when are we opening? And so they were very much ready to come back to work for the most part. I'm glad it's over and I'm glad we survived.
It's fucking
And
terrible.
that would-
It ravaged the restaurant industry in this town.
Yeah.
And we're going to see some cool shit come from the ashes,
Well, I'll tell you one cool thing that came from the ashes is there's a ton of. I live in Carlsbad.
Yeah.
All those restaurants have street, outdoor,
Yeah.
permanent
Right.
outdoor eating. Like there's
Right.
restaurants in Carlsbad. They doubled their seating capacity and it'll never go away.
Right.
I mean, and if I owned that place, I'd be like, maybe I took it in the ass for 2 years, but I'm gonna make with this double the amount of people I can seat here now. I'll make that. They'll make it back.
Sure.
I don't know.
I just
think
trip
that's
out
cool.
on the fact that they were able to do, because it was legal to have to-go drinks.
Yeah.
To-go Mai Tais. You
Yeah,
just
we
like in
were-
the car.
That was one of the
They approved to-go drinks, and we ran a special, which it was terrible, basically. So it was basically a mason jar. Each mason jar had 2 Mai Tais of liquid in it, and then there was the accompanying ice, separate, and in one order of Pocky. So it was 4 Mai Tais and 1 order of Pocky. I don't remember what we charged for it, but literally the first time we sold it, like, there were just people littered on that stretch of lawn, that's Shelter Island. It's public access, right?
Sleeping.
With their Mai Tai Pocky packs, and there's 2 of them, and they're just laid out there like zombies, I'm like, man, I don't know, this isn't a real good look,
Yeah.
But the people wanted it, and that's,
I think it was cool that it was, because I think it kept a lot of businesses open,
Oh, absolutely.
To
yeah.
go.
Yeah, at that point we
yeah,
were scratching
totally.
and clawing, and again, it kept people working, that was, I'm glad that's behind us. I hope, and it was scary, the oversight that we started to see, I mean, that, as a small business owner, that terrifies us, it just does, you don't, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
When they put you as, all of a sudden, you're the guy that's telling them they got to go get whatever, right? Like,
The crazy thing that got me was, and I didn't figure this out till I got down the line with it a little bit further, was, they were like, it was really hard to get an answer of whether or not we could have like our own private clients coming in, and they were kept everything very gray. It's like I couldn't get everyone to give me solid reports, but what I did find out, because I was getting to the point where I'm like, if you got a client, I've got a bunch of tattooers that are like, dude, either I come in and work at some point or I'm out. Like they're going to move to fucking other countries and shit, or they're going to start working out of their houses, or they're going to do, which was, I kept calling the health department saying, this is what, I'm going to tell you what's happening in my shop. And if it's happening in my shop, it's happening everywhere. They are going home. This is where they're headed right now.
Right.
To their
and they're
kitchens.
to their kitchens.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what's going to happen. Now, if you guys allow some way to get this done, we can keep them in a clean, sterile environment where
Right.
it's going to, your whole thing is safety, right? I think it's safer than this other thing. But we couldn't get, but the real thing I did realize is I eventually called my insurance providers And they still never have answered me. They ran me through hoop after hoop. And the basic question was, if I'm tattooing and there was a lockdown or a gray area I'm in or something, am I insured? And they never gave me a yes or no. But that was the catch, is I'm like, great, I could probably be the fucking pirate, go in there and do what the hell I want. But man, one lawsuit goes down, I'm not insured, I'm fucked. It'll sink my ship.
Not only that, at the business level and the county level, right? Like you're at the top of the heap. Like you're high profile, you have a lot to lose. Like, if they want to make an example out of you, like what do you all of a sudden you got to get an attorney, you know what I mean? It's just not
scary.
A conducive environment to business. It's just,
Well, hopefully, I mean, it's funny. I hear COVID's going around again, and maybe it is. I don't know. But I just don't. A lot of people are like, that's just round one, man. They got another one coming. They're closing us down harder next time. And then I don't think it'll happen like that again.
I don't know, man. I think they pushed it as far as they could.
Exactly.
And now people are like, why did we let them do it? And not everyone, but enough people are like, why did we let them take it that far?
Right.
They
aren't going to line up as quick.
This time round. I think you're going to have some pushback, both from the everyday citizen, the business owner, the whole thing. I think you're going to have pushback.
I agree, and I hope you're right, because boy, I got PTSD from that shit.
Totally.
I mean, I am not well off enough I need my businesses to be here. I've got kids going to college. Like everything cruxes on me continuing.
I fucking lived in my front yard making a lifestyle out of like pacing. You know what I mean? Like literally.
Is that how you lost all that weight?
Shit, I don't know. Probably. I walk like 5 miles a day in my front yard.
You were stressed. Right?
Definitely was.
Because you got a
I've always had a body that like, a nice body though. I'm not gonna lie. I work out.
Stress is a good diet. I will say that. Well, enough on that. I just kind of brought it up because we are small business owners. We all went through that little mini hell together, and we're all still standing. Thank God. And,
thank God we're here.
And my heart goes out to those that didn't survive through that. Really, really does. I know there's just a ton of good people who put their life savings into something, and now it's gone. And they're back to maybe some job that they hated. They took their one shot. We're going to take our shot, kids. We're taking all the family's money. We're going to make it. This is we're the American dream.
Right.
And then, boom.
A month later, they lock you down.
Yes.
Yeah, like,
ooh,
breaks
my heart, dude.
Yeah. Especially you're talking about restaurants. Like, if you're starting a restaurant from the ground up, usually, and it's on your own, you're 2.5 years out from the green.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So if you're in any part of that early life, like, you're done. You
can't have a disruption.
No.
That part's got to go.
There's no way. And
Perfect.
most of those people don't have the connections then to go get the funding and the.
Oh yeah, no bank wants to touch you.
Right.
Yeah, newest restaurant on the block.
Even the grants and all that. There's just they're not savvy enough. They just haven't been around long enough.
Holly, if you listen to this episode, she listens to some of them. I hear occasionally.
I think she's going to listen because I'm on this episode.
She will because you're here. God bless your heart. My wife we did get an EIDL, and it's kind of saved us. I was able to keep paying my managers, and because I paid them when they didn't work.
Right.
I said, fuck it, I'll figure it out later. But she was the second application to get into my bank for that EIDL, and the paperwork. And I know I don't know if you did any of those.
Oh yeah.
Did you have an accountant help you with it?
No, not.
You did it?
Yeah. The bank kind of walked us through the mistakes on it. We'd submit to like a bank rep first.
Gnarly
pages and
dude.
pages.
I'm like, I had my wife's a very smart woman and very adept, and if she hadn't been there, no fucking way could I have gotten it done.
Yeah.
And you're right. If you're a young business just getting started and you're dealing with all the new shit there, and now you got to go figure out basically a government contract bank application that they, by the way, lost 3 times. We can't find. Could you do that again? I'm like, I just paid an accountant like $1,500 to get the first packet to you.
And if it's not completely perfect, they're like, oh, we're throwing in that stack.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was.
Yeah.
I never seen her cry so much. She was on that phone. She knew the people in that department, whatever department she was calling. They all knew. They were like, "Hi, Holly."
But that's what it takes. Like that's and that, yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy times. But well, I wanted to go back to this Mai Tai talking because I know, and it's not. I don't want to make your fabulous restaurant all about that drink, but it is famous. It is
Very
infamous for the Mai Tai. I've had the Mai Tai. It's fucking delicious, but it's also known to be a pretty heavy little hitter.
It
little
is.
strong. a strong one. And what I think you told me earlier, I found this pretty fascinating. You're a month or 2 or 3 away from selling your 3 millionth.
We're probably 8 months out, based on old math, from 3 million sold.
Could you text me and Dave could we?
Sure.
We don't have to be 3,000,001, but
You
if I could get in that
maybe.
first dozen.
Yeah.
I am not allowed to have the Mai Tai. Just so you guys are, if you're looking at me right now, I am not allowed to have the Mai Tai.
Did you have
Tired of that number?
a Mai Tai issue?
I have had several. So the funny thing about
Mai
the
Tais
Mai
or
Tai,
issues?
yeah,
I think it's a
both.
Dave issue. But.
Both. So the thing about the Mai Tai that's funny is when I first had my first Mai Tai, I actually went with, I think, Avalon to the Bali Hai. And this was back when it was like a different restaurant before the remodel. You'd go there, you'd get the classic salad with a Thousand Island dressing, an onion soup. That came like with the meal. And then you get your meal, right? And I forget who it was, probably Mike Stovey or something. We're getting a Mai Tai, we're getting this mug. And I'm like, okay. And I'm sit there, drink a sip out of this Mai Tai, and I just realized my eyeballs start kind of clicking down, light is getting darker.
Shades.
And I'm like, what the fuck is happening in here? Are they dimming the lights? And then literally within seconds, you're hammered. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'll have another one because I've fucking sucked that down so fast. The ice is crunchy. I love it. I love this mug. And then I realized so, that happens a couple times. I realize, okay, the shade is normal. Once that happens, I realize that's probably enough. Well, then we start, we become good friends. I end up tattooing him. I will eventually draw the menus. We start playing at the venue. And we do this thing where we decide it's going to be really funny. We'll be like a cocktail band that'll just walk to each table and play for you like mariachi band, right? You're not asking us. We just show up and fucking blow your dinner out. And so we're walking around and they give us a Mai Tai. And I'm the kind of person who's I take a sip, I put it on the table, play the song, walk away. I'm like, oh, I lost my Mai Tai. So this one night I must have had, honestly, probably 7 Mai Tais just trying to find them all. Well, at one point, I literally, with my guitar, just went down all of the stairs, playing the guitar. There was another time where I'm sitting out there talking to somebody, and I went to sit down, and there was nothing behind me. I had a Mai Tai in my hand. My ass hit the ground. The Mai Tai went straight up. I looked, and I go, uh-oh, all over the ground. There was another time I went down another flight of stairs. There's one time we're playing on stage and we have this brand new mug and I turn my guitar and the mug goes this is a sought after mug. People are waiting in line. This is going to be worth a lot of money. Yeah.
Now.
I fucking turn around, the mug goes pitching off the stage and shatters all over the ground. So my wife, Mary, who is an amazing angel, does not appreciate when I partake in the devil's elixir.
Well, yeah, I could see that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But don't give up so easily.
No, I mean,
I'm sure if we put our minds to it, you could have one.
I mean, it's,
That's the amazing thing about that drink, right?
It's meant to be one.
Most people that you talk to in this town, when you bring that drink up, have at least one story like that.
I bet.
Where they're like, oh, this time.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have had the second one, I mean,
I'm just thinking of you managing that bar with the shit you've seen in there.
So when I came in, it's a funny story. So I come in the scene, right, and I tended bar for 4 months or something, and I take over, and I started watching a trend, right? Newbies comes in, right? They order the Mai Tai, they get that first sip, and they're just like, oh my god, that's fucking.
Now there's no juice in the Mai Tai.
Full
You
of rum,
understand? There's no sweetener.
They struggle. There's orgeat syrup.
Okay.
Triple sip, but yeah. Anyway,
There's no juice.
they struggle down that first one, right? It takes them 30, 45 minutes to finish it. Now they feel really good, though. Mm-hmm. Their mouth's numb. They're like, I definitely want a second one.
Right.
They inhale the second one, right? I'm having a third one. They get about that far into the third one, and that second one just like a brick wall. And we were just mopping people up off the floor.
All the time.
I mean, now I'm running the show. I'm like, this isn't good. This isn't a good look. This isn't good for anything, So I instituted the 2 and done rule. Yeah, where
I remember when I was there once, they
you
told
can
me
have
that.
2 Mai Tais, Now we have locals. I can get, a third one, or people that'll come down. But we're staying at Humphreys. They show you the room card. They're like, we're walking home. I'm like, well, not if you have a third one, but good luck. But yeah, that drink. I mean, there's grandmothers that bring their grandkids for their 21st birthday to get their first Mai Tai. That single drink literally bridges generations and is part of the reason the Bali Hai is so successful. I mean, it's 10% of my gross.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, that's gnarly.
Yeah.
And it's rad how you make all the custom one-off mugs for the drink, and if you buy the drink, you get the mug, and they're all collectibles.
Yeah, oh yeah, and
over
that's
the
huge
years.
in the Tiki. You know, I mean,
how many different types of mugs have you made?
Since I've been there, man, I don't know, a lot.
I mean, do you have a case down there?
Yeah,
like
we have a
glass
case with definitely all the ones that I and collab with people on that we've done. Some of the early ones when I wasn't around aren't in there. But yeah, we have like a little mini, museum collection kind of thing. Cool. Man, I gotta think I've done in the last 12 years, I've done at least 20 mugs, maybe more.
And they're all like so collectible. And then the original Bali Hai mugs go back to, you talk about people that collect Tiki shit.
Yeah, 60s.
Dude, this shit is it's the top tier.
Right. If you've got one of
If
those
you
mugs.
have that,
Yeah.
and it's cool because you can go into books and see like, oh, back then this was the original things people were collecting. It's there. Mm-hmm. It's like right there. So it has this incredible history. That's I think people have to have these things. They've got to. It's insane. It's part of the deal.
I got my first pair from you.
Yeah.
When we went to dinner
Yep.
there. That's one of them. There's the other one up there.
Yeah.
Incredible gift.
Yeah, because you guys hired my wife Mary, and we went to a nice dinner.
Yeah, and you got me the Mai Tai with the mugs, and I still have them now. They're down here. But
Dave has a rad custom of he'll like take the underside where it's not glazed and take a Sharpie and like write the date and the occasion and like who he's having dinner with. Is it?
Yeah, so
You did it.
We did it.
See?
he did it on this one.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
And we have
It's pretty
hundreds
cool.
at home like that. And I whenever I want to sell one of my mugs, I have to look at them. I'm like, oh no, that was Wolfgang's second. Oh, that's Wolfgang's fourth. Okay, these are all, but you can't get rid of them.
No,
Because
you cannot.
they're definitely like special nights.
They're family heirlooms, no
Yeah.
doubt about it. In fact, after today is over, I need to write on the bottoms of both these because both these were separate. This is when you first came on the show.
Yeah.
And this is when you, Tommy, came on the show. I'm going to make note of that because you'll forget. I'll be like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I want to
it's-
take this
yeah.
time too to say this, I'm in a local San Diego band, and this family this is something that's never fucking happened. I don't care. This 70-year-old business has decided we have this mug that people come from all over the world to get. We're going to make mugs of your band. That's our restaurant. And then we're going to throw a show, and these people are going to fucking buy this shit, because there's only a certain amount made. They're not going to be made for the rest of the time. And I've never, ever, ever met a business, like a restaurant, that has ever included a band into that, lineup. They're a restaurant. You see what I'm saying? They
no, it's why
yeah,
they started
don't
at the beginning.
Why are they doing that?
Because they give a shit about
Because
their community.
they are family. They have taken our family in, and especially during the times that we were talking about earlier, the Pee Wee Herman sound, we were talking about. But through that time, one of the way we worked with them to keep the business open was we had these events that were outside and sanctioned. And that was such a special thing because we weren't allowed to play anywhere. Our band, that's something I've done my whole life, was told, you're done. I didn't know if I would ever play with people I've been in a band with for 23 years ever again because of what we were being told at the time.
Right.
And there was no venue to play live music. So the fact that the Bali Hai had the outdoors and open to the sea.
Right.
We got to be part of this thing that was just so special. And now we're part of 70 years of history, which I can't say. I mean, sure, there's bands that are hooked up with Taco Bell and fucking all these places, right? Of course. But they're not family. They're getting fucking sponsorships.
That's corporate.
This is a fucking family endeavor. And I also want to say this too before we forget, because we're going to, but if you ever go down there before 3:00 p.m., you get the trout dog. It's a smoked fucking tuna fish sandwich. It's not called the trout dog. We call it the trout dog. Creepzotica.
You can order it that way now.
You
and the staff
can
will know
order
what
the
you're
trout
talking
dog
about
now.
because of this man.
Yep. And so that is
It's not,
the jam.
not on the menu type thing? Or?
It's a smoked tuna melt on the menu,
Oh,
but
okay.
We call it the
refers
trout
to it as
dog.
trout dog. So.
And so, yeah, I
Now
want
I
to
have
say that
train
that
the
is
staff
that's a
if anybody
jam
orders
too.
a
It's
trout dog.
That's,
Yeah.
They know Dave.
But I will say that, for me, one of the reasons bringing him on is because I've never met a family that will do that. You know what I mean? And say, we love you guys so much. We're going to work with you and we're going to spend all this fucking money making this thing that we don't need to make because we already have our one that people come for. but we're going to make this special fucking thing, and it's going to go Richter. And we're just like, whoa. So as our, like my friends in this band, when we go to see him, it's like fucking going home, dude. It's rad.
That's cool. That's cool.
Every time. It's like...
Are these meant to represent each character in the band? Or are they just sort of
No,
different tikis?
They're the band.
Different Tiki,
Yeah.
different collabs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one was, we did a collaboration with Swami John Reese from Rocket from the Crypt.
Okay.
And we wrote a record with him based on the Bali Hai. One song is called One Mai Tai, Two Mai Tai, Three Mai Tai Floor. The other one's called Shelter Island. And so we actually, which you guys will see later in this, the B-roll, but these are the nice little custom shits that came with it. So this is the Swami one, and then this last week we did another one, and this is the Creep on the Roof, which again we're talking about the Goof on the Roof, which is on their rooftop, but we're honored because now I can be a goof. You see what I'm saying?
I do. Hey, finally, you get to be a goof.
I get to be a goof.
Finally. Been holding back all these years.
God, just let me be.
No, I mean, I hear you, Dave, and I hear the love there, and I hear the compliment, and I hear the thank you.
I mean, I
That's
see
pretty
his
sweet.
mom and dad, and I just get the biggest hugs. You know, my son got to work there last week and be part of the family for the first time, and he's just like so fucking ecstatic. I mean, it's a special thing that doesn't exist anymore. You know,
Well, you're easy to love. You're an ace.
He is easy to love.
I'm an
Yes.
ace, baby.
I'm
Hey,
sure-
he's an ace. You're an ace.
Yeah.
Okay. Triple aces at the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just comes back, it's relationships. Like why not build rad relationships? Everybody make a little money together, and everybody's better for it. And these guys go around town singing the praise of Bali Hai, and that in itself is worth, that's priceless, right? I mean, like,
Yeah, man.
So I mean, it's full circle. It's
And it should be fun.
It's super
right. Well,
fun.
that's the It's
I mean,
gotta be
I
super
opened my
fun.
business because I thought it'd be a lot of fun.
Right.
Now, if I have my hard days, because you're young and naive, and to me, it was the whole idea of owning a tattoo shop was just a big, fun fucking party. Like,
Right.
why wouldn't I do this for a living? Of course, there's been some tough days.
Sure.
You end up with you have to do accounting, and suddenly you got to go talk to banks, and you're like, what happened to all the fun?
Yeah.
But overall, it's been fun owning my businesses, and I still have fun. And I know that's big for you over there at Warshaw Provisions.
We're just having fun.
I mean,
we have a fun
I think
side.
he emulates that vibe. You could go into Dave's
Yeah.
place and just play pinball all night if you want to.
We will have a great time together. Trust me.
It's kind of like
I promise.
a club, really, more than a store. I still I can't ever figure out how to put what you do into words, which just leave it
So,
that way.
He just is.
Yeah, that is
Well, I
what
meant
it
the
is.
store.
I
Like
am.
people are like, what does he sell over there? I'm like, I start with the
Roller
fireplaces.
skate parts,
Yeah,
fireplaces.
I mean, I do. Basically, I sell me.
Dreams.
That's all it is. It's like if I like something and you think it's cool, we can work together.
Yeah.
If you don't get it, then I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it is all based on fun. And again, our business is, like I was saying earlier, we love being a business because people will come and they want to hang out. You know what I mean? You want to see people that you're familiar with. It makes your day feel good.
Yeah, it does. It does. We're in the people pleasing, friend making business, not like a lot of other models where it's just different. It's
Yeah.
more about the bottom line and how much did we sell last month and all that shit.
Well, and we've done so much work together now. We're at the point where, I mean, even when I met him, I knew I could take him at his word. Like that's, that those days are, I don't want to say that maybe they're coming to an end, but they're kind of thinning out, of those guys where you can do business on a handshake. You could, and trust that he's not going to hold you over the fire later or screw you over, or, Yeah. So we've made a pact now, all these collabs and projects that we do, like we only really work with people that we can have fun with.
Yeah, it's super
Like that's
cool.
that was our New Year's resolution a couple of years ago. Like we're done doing business with, people that just aren't good people or we don't have fun with, or, like
There shouldn't be
Yeah,
any
there
stress
isn't enough time, right?
if we're like not stressed doing it, right? Like, so we just do the shit. It's perfect. It works out.
How many times has your band played over there?
Fuck. I have no idea.
That's a great question. A lot. They're pretty much the house band at this point.
And we have played there for
Every room,
at
every
least,
space.
I mean, at least, I forget the first time we would have played there, but dude, it's been years and years now.
That's cool. Very cool.
Gotta be
Incredible.
close to 10 years.
Yeah, it's at least. And we played upstairs, we played downstairs, we play outside, we play wherever the fuck we want to play. The next thing we want to do is we at some point have to get driven in on a boat playing. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
That's the ultimate jam. So maybe 7 years we could come in on a boat.
Get that done sooner than that. I mean, we know you got friends with boats. Come on, let's
Well,
figure
no,
it out.
next year's 70
Next
years.
year's
So we
70
got a
years.
boat. You know, maybe
Okay.
we'll have a boat by then. The creek boat. Yeah, the creek boat.
I see that.
Yeah.
That works. Maybe we're a barge.
Yeah.
But yes.
Maybe more of a barge.
Yeah, I think a barge would be nice. I want one.
And then let's get to fishing. So I know is fishing for you. Are you a part of the commercial aspects of the San Diego fishing community?
Yeah, so when I wasn't really stoked working for mom and dad, I dove right into fishing. And in those days, and I don't really know if it still happens, but in those days, they would take you on as like a teenage kid, like 13, 14, right? And you could, so the sport boats, right? The half day boat, the 3/4 day boat, they would take you out and you could fish. If fishing got really good, you'd help shag fish. And then on the way in, you'd scrub the boat, and they wouldn't charge you a ticket. And then eventually, you become part of the crew. So did that all through high school, and really fell in love with fishing. You know, it's all I wanted to do at that point. I was hunting a lot too, but the ocean, the fishing, we were surfing, we were sailing, we were always on the water. And so I go away to school on the East Coast, did some commercial fishing on the East Coast. Lobster and stuff like that, striper fishing for spare money. Come back and buy a boat, get into fishing, having a blast, link up with a childhood buddy, and we start a side gig. So it's a hook and line commercial boat. So it's his main gig. He's doing it 5, 6, 7 days a week when he's on it, and I jump on when I can. And then our restaurants buy that fish.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
We have
is
a book
how-
of restaurants that buy that fish.
It's pretty rad. So
Yeah,
all your
so
stuff
it's
is
awesome. Yeah.
super
And the-
fresh and
yeah.
local.
And that's ultimately what happens is you just get it a couple days earlier, you know, so you get a little more shelf life out
Which
of
is
it.
huge,
you know?
though.
And you know the care that went into that fish, you know, once it was, you know, harvested.
It makes such a difference when
It
a
does.
fish is caught relatively soon, even if you ice it or whatever.
Oh,
it
sure.
just tastes.
Yeah, I mean,
so
there's
much
definitely a shelf life. So yeah, we've been blessed, you know, the last 5, 6, 7 years with this bluefin fishing. It's
been going
out of
good. I
control.
hear. That's what I've been hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I traveled distant places in the world to catch that grade of fish, and now it's right here. It's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
But I did learn from Grant, actually, you know, Grant Morgan, when he was on the show. I didn't know this, but bluefin start their lives on the west coast of America. And then when they reach a certain age, they swim down to like Australia, somewhere, Japan area, and they never come back. So the biggest ones are always down there.
So yeah, so you missed a little piece. So
Okay.
the breeding bluefin live on the western edge of the Pacific,
Okay.
Japan to Australia, right? The 1,000-pounders, the big boys.
Right.
Those are the breeding stock of bluefin.
Then they're born there.
They're born there. They ride these crazy underwater currents all the way across the Pacific, and they end up in the Southern California bight, right? So you're talking Point Conception to Colonet, Baja,
Okay.
because there's a ton of food for them to here, and they can compete in the food chain.
Mm-hmm.
Over there, they're small fish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we were kids, when their albacore and all that was around, we'd see that fish get to 100, 120 pounds. If you got a 120-pound bluefin, and they were around, but that was a big fish, you know?
Mm-hmm.
At that point, they could migrate home, basically. They'd migrate back to the
They're
western
big enough to
Pacific,
go back to where they
big
came
enough to the
from.
Pacific, compete in the food chain,
Right.
grow to big, have babies, all that good stuff. So the albacore kind of went away. This might even go back 7 years now. We start catching this commercial grade, 40, 50, 60-pound bluefin off the coast. We're hook, line, and commercial fishing. In a couple months, we're catching 100-pounders. We're like, oh, this is pretty cool, you know. By the end of that year, we're catching 200-pounders. And we're like, Then all of a sudden, when we land the fish and we sell it to these restaurants, we have logbooks that go to Department of Fish and Game. Fish and Game's contacting us. U.S. Fish and Wildlife contacting us. NOAA's contacting us. They want samples of this fish. And so I start talking to these biologists. I'm like, well, what's going on? And they're like, well, we don't know why they're not leaving.
They're not leaving.
We don't know
but they're staying.
We
is
don't
what's-
know what's happening. So over the course of like the next 3 years, 4 years, we see fish into 300-400 pounds, you know, and they're not leaving. Now they're not breeding on this coast yet, supposedly, but they're not going anywhere yet. We're going to see a warm cycle here in our local waters late. Their circle just goes a little further north. So now those guys at San Francisco, Humboldt, those guys are starting to catch them up there.
Okay.
So the southern end of their loop will move up a little bit, you know.
Okay.
But it'll be interesting to see because the ocean's very cyclical and and weather cycles and all that, they may leave. They may go away.
Is there
but
any
there's
theory?
people. As many theories as you could think of. Like Fukushima was a big theory. Everybody thought they were putting that dirty water back, and whether it was killing the bait that those mid-sized fish were going to eat, or they just knew the water was funky, or there's a million theories. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's really, really cool that 300, 200, 300, 400 pound fish.
Well, oceans are changing, I think, everywhere right now.
The ocean's always changing. That's
Something unique. I was just in Sardinia, Italy. I just got back a week ago, and we took some boat rides with some old Sardinian dudes, and I couldn't quite understand. They were telling similar stories. Like, I grew up here. This is the kind of fish we used to see. We don't, just in the last 3 years, they're gone. These other types are showing up. They have new currents moving through the island chain off Sardinia where their beaches are all being washed away. We've never seen the water move in this particular direction. I've lived here. These are old men telling me this. And then I come back to California and I got fishermen like you telling me about these new things that are happening. And I'm not going to sit here and global warming, or maybe it's a good thing.
Well,
I don't know, but
even
things
if,
seem to be in shift.
If it's a 150-year cycle, if it's a 150-year cycle,
maybe
there's a chance that generation never saw it. You know what
Right,
I mean?
right.
Or maybe they weren't record. Maybe they didn't have fishing.
And you're
almanacs
right.
300
These
years
cycles
ago.
could be 1,000-year
Yeah,
cycles.
we don't.
Right.
And the ocean. It's very cyclical.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
The predictions that they make, they don't always come true. But yeah, you can. Yeah.
That's cool. Interesting fun fact. This building we're in was a home. Its original function was it was a tuna canning facility.
Okay.
The family lived upstairs, and the downstairs was where they canned all the tuna. So the fish would come in here and they bring it up and they can it and package it and put it out. Even I had to build a new floor down there when we took it over. I have tattooers down there now and a laser tattoo removal company down there. But the whole floor was tilted with drains, and we couldn't. And I eventually learned why, because they were down there slaughtering fish and canning the fish down there. But it was just one of those moments where I realized, the history of San Diego and how much of a fishing industry town. I don't think people view it that way now.
San Diego wouldn't be, it wouldn't be near what it was without that tuna industry.
Right. That kind of was the backbone.
And then you talk about the spillover of the Portuguese, the Italians, everybody that came here to do it. There's,
hence why we have Little Italy.
Carried the city for, decades. That was one of the biggest industries in town.
Right. It's cool.
It wasn't really till I was a kid where the last canneries were starting to go away, in the 80s.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's just fun that I have this is my tattoo shop here.
Yeah, no,
I have my
it's cool,
podcast studio, but it was a tuna.
This place is a little fishy.
It's a little. Well, it also was a very what kind of massage parlor?
Dude, mine was too.
Really?
Yeah, mine was a
Like
fucking
a special massage
mine
parlor.
was a circus fucking themed massage parlor called the Merry-Go-Round.
That's terrifying.
And it had clowns outside.
Wow, that's cooler than mine.
And the Cozy Corner was before that.
You're one of those type of buildings too.
Yeah, I love it.
I love these old buildings, these old stories. All right, tattoos. Dave, you're a tattoo artist, aren't you?
I think so.
I hear you're tattooing a lot more nowadays.
I've been tattooing.
You've been cranking
You know
it up.
what?
You took a hiatus there
I took
for
a little
minute.
bit of a hiatus, but you know what? I'm back.
You missed it.
I'm back. I'm back. We've got a
Just so
family
everybody
business.
listening-
We have a family business, right? I do the tattoos. My wife takes off the tattoos here, correct? Downstairs.
Yes, correct.
The boy is starting to learn, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I think
He did one of his first tattoos on this show
Yes, he
last
did.
time you
Yes,
were here,
thank
which
you
was
very much.
super fucking cool.
So, so I am definitely, I would say, a tattoo artist.
Okay, good. I just wanted to
Thank
make
you.
sure. I
Thank
didn't know if you were back on hiatus. I never know, but you're in right now. But I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah,
the
thank
fact you are a tattoo artist, the fact you own Warshaw Provisions, the fact you now have a spot inside in your store to tattoo. So anyone listening who's from San Diego and loves Dave and loves tattoos, just know that's there. But also, you've tattooed your buddy Tommy. Tommy, you've been tattooed.
Yep.
Do you have any stories about your tattoo? The one with Dave we can get to, but it was the first tattoo and why you got
My
it?
first tattoo was of a tattoo of a yellowtail.
Oh, there's that fishing
on my
blood
back.
in you.
Fish, yeah.
Okay.
Got Ace tattoo and OB.
Oh, yeah.
Gary and
Is Ace still there?
I think so.
I should know. I've been
I
there
don't
in
know.
a while.
It's
I
down
love
the
OB,
street,
but I just haven't been over there in a while.
I haven't either.
Yeah, I think it's still there.
Okay.
And just kind of went from there. Going into the maritime industry, it was kind of a natural progression. When I first started in that industry, we were, they're very much still pirates, basically.
Right.
It's changed quite a bit now, but
Pirates with healthcare.
yeah, and good pay.
And good pay.
I wish I was a pirate with healthcare and good pay.
But yeah, I just got, tattooed over the years. I've got some tattoos in New York when I was in college there. And yeah.
Cool. Well, and Dave, what did you do on him?
So that's how we became really good friends, is I got to do a goof on the roof on his shoulder.
That's
or
cool.
on his back. And so it was pretty neat because, I went to dinner there maybe a week later. It was like, oh my God, we've just seen, he's walking around with his shirt off. And then literally, a couple months later, it was like they hired me to do the drink menus. And that's another thing really quick too about art and their stuff is, and especially the tattoo is in the drink menu, his tattoo. But, that's a cool thing about tiki bars too, is you get to take art with you home with the menus and shit like that. Right. So they really put me on a plateau because I got to draw for an incredibly historical restaurant. So whenever I go get a job, and even Cutwater, I got through him, because we were friends. So it's like all these things, they all have to do with that legacy of this fucking company. You know what I mean? So
and it all started with the tattoo you did on him. But I think another thing I want to compliment on is it's pretty cool that your place. I mean, most of the time people that want a menu with some cool tiki shit on it, they go to a graphic design firm. That guy gets clip art from a fucking website, prints it on there, and it probably, if you didn't know any better, looks pretty cool. But that's not what you did.
Oh,
you hire
these guys were so into it too. They're like they know their drink. They know their drink. They're taking the photograph of the drink the way it needs to look, the angle it needs to look, because the ice has to be perfect. The ice has to be drawn because they're the place with that ice. You know what I'm saying? Like all the details, they really did 100% to give me exactly what they wanted to see. It wasn't like, hey, just fuck around and make it look cool. It was like, this is what it has to look like because this is what you're getting. Right. And it was cool, man. I'm stoked. I got to draw a Mai Tai that looks like a Mai Tai somehow, So that was a really cool learning. Yeah. Baby little Mai Tai right there, too. Little fucking baby Mai Tai. I did that one, too. I did that one, too.
That's some nice looking ties.
It's a little baby fucking Mai Tai right there.
You got that ice. Ice is my favorite part, right?
Fucking ice. And it's crunchy.
Well, and I think we talked about maybe, sometimes on the show we do a tattoo. And you asked if I'd do a tattoo on you. Yep. I'm going to do that. I showed Tommy the picture earlier.
That's right.
Maybe we'll show it on the B-roll, or you guys can check it out here in a few minutes. But basically, it's a flying fish. And anybody out there who's a big-time fisherman, and maybe I fucked this up a little bit, but flying fish are a huge part of a fisherman's story because they are the primary bait fish for catching large tuna, swordfish, with kites, and I don't know if we go down that rabbit hole for people who don't fish, but it's pretty amazing to see the techniques you guys use to get those things.
Definitely.
And how they can hook the hooks through the fish, and then they can create a balloon or a kite that's flying, and then this fish that's actually bait is dipping in and out of the water. It looks like a perfectly alive flying fish, and it has to because these big tuna are not fucking stupid. If they see anything wrong with that thing, they ain't eating it. And if you get it all right, you got yourself a 500-pound bluefin, right?
Yeah.
So
that's the dream.
But I only say that because I don't think a lot of people understand. They might know what a flying fish is, but what a flying fish is to a fisherman.
Yeah, I never knew that.
And definitely now in this era of what we're doing, I mean, it's always been around in like the San Diego long range fleet. Right, a lot of these boats leave out of here and they go fish distant places down south. They definitely were using kites and flying fish long before the bluefin showed up here.
Right.
But yeah, now we get to adapt that, to local waters, and it's pretty cool.
It's an art form,
going
dude.
out, catching the flying fish,
it's
rigging
hunting.
the flying fish. Yeah,
that's where
at that
fishing.
Point, you're hunting,
right? It gets more like hunting. With hunting, you got to sneak up on the elk. You can't smell you.
Right.
You better be downwind, upwind. You better maybe know which direction he's going because you've been stalking him for a week, and every Thursday he comes through this pasture. That's hunting, right?
Yeah.
But fishing always seemed like put your bait on the hook, throw it in the water, like gambling. Like maybe I'll hit the jackpot. Yeah. But when you get into this level, this flying fish, big tuna hunting.
I mean, there's people that take it seriously on any level of fishing, right? Like to them, it's that's what they do, whether they fish bass or whatever, right?
Right.
But yeah, once you get to that level of fishing in any fishing, luck helps, right? But at that point, everything's very methodical, and you try to be well thought out. I mean, you're still dealing with Mother Nature, so that's the fun part,
still
And the ocean, you know, you never know what the ocean's going to throw at you.
I just think it's cool that you guys fishermen created that ability to make a flying fish look totally alive, skipping across the water
Yeah, right.
enough to where a 500-pound tuna would eat it. You know,
inhale it, yeah, come all the way out of the
and
water.
it's also the story of why I knew when you said you wanted a flying fish, that's what it represented for you, right? It's a reflection of your fishing career, your love for fishing. So with that being said, I think we should take a break. I have to piss super bad, and I think
I already went to the bathroom a couple times while we've been sitting here, just so you know.
Mop aisle 7. Yeah, we'll take a break. We'll get some things set up. I'll see everyone listening on the other side. We're gonna rip a rad flying fish tattoo on Tommy, and then I'm hoping this is still happening, but I think we're coming back over here, and we're all gonna have. I don't know about Dave.
I'll
have to-
have a little sliver. You
we're
know
gonna
what I'm
have the
saying?
world famous Bali Hai Mai Tai as our finishing toast
Damn.
to
Love
this
it.
epic day.
Oh, man.
All right, we'll see you over there. Until then, peace out. Welcome back, friends. How was that tattoo, Tommy?
Awesome. Great.
You sound like a man.
Yeah, came out amazing.
He is a man.
He is a man. He's a fisherman.
Yes, a fisherman.
And we did a fisherman's
Yes.
tattoo.
Got
on
a
there.
the waterman.
We're going to close it up quick. I want everyone who is listening to know we are sitting here with 3 of the world famous Mai Tais from Bali Hai, made by Tommy
Oh,
himself.
my goodness gracious.
Brought all the ingredients, made them. We're in the custom mugs. We're going to have a toast right now. I'd like to propose this toast, if that's okay, gentlemen.
Yes.
This toast, I think, should be to good people, good business owners that realize the power that they have to affect the community, to fucking grab an artist and make friends with them and give them work and help support the arts and support a community. I think that's genius. It's obvious that the karma at Bali Hai is strong and proud, and it warms my heart to have met you and to be your friend, and of course, to try your world famous Mai Tai. Once again, it's been a few years, but once again. Anything to add there, Dave?
I am going to become dangerous in the next 3 seconds. So
There is
thank you very
stairs
much.
out front, so.
Yes, so I just appreciate you for celebrating this family right here, because I feel like my purpose in life is always to like show like greatness when I find it, and this family is fucking epic. Perfect family. So cheers to fucking family, and cheers to having a great time, and cheers to you.
Yeah.
Raise them high, Bali High.
Oh,
Click.
clicky. Clickety clue. Oh, I can suck it all down.
Okay, guys.
It's a little
That's
bit
beautiful. The only thing we're missing is a beach and some toast in the sand with
Right.
that fucking drink.
Right.
Oh,
All right, everyone has somewhere to be on today's show. Actually, Dave's wife's up front grinding
Yeah,
her
she's
teeth.
mad.
So, in order to save his skin, I'm going to wrap it up quick. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your shares. Thank you for all the recommendations for guests. Please keep all that shit coming. I need it. I want it. I need your help. The young show. I'm still trying to grow, and all that love and support means tons to me. Tommy, thank you for coming down
Thanks for
and
having
sharing your story with us. Of course, Dave Warshaw of
I love
Warshaw
it.
Provisions here once again. My first time for a guest at Landon. Second time to have a guest back twice.
I'm coming back a third time.
We'll do number 3 with you.
I'm coming back 3.
That's it for today, everybody. Peace out.